Listen on America's #1 podcast network, iHeart. Open your free iHeart app and listen now.
This is Ticket 760, KTKR San Antonio, your home for sports. Guaranteed human. Make us the #1 preset in your car and on the free new and improved iHeartRadio app. This is the starting lineup. Here's your host, Carl Schoening.
Welcome into the starting lineup. I'm Carl Schoening, starting at your host and the voice coming through your speakers. LG in the starting lineup with me today as the audio technician. The Cavs close out the Pistons. Tom Brady is in his model era. And Shams spoils SGA winning the NBA MVP. But we're in San Antonio, Texas, and we have to start with Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. Tonight in Oklahoma City at 7:30, the almost destined matchup between the Spurs and the Thunder gets underway. Man, the city of San Antonio has probably not been this excited for basketball since maybe 2014. I think 2017 obviously was a year that was also very much an exciting year. I shouldn't discount that because that was the last time the Spurs were in the Western Conference Finals. Let's not go over that one too much, but obviously Kawhi Leonard almost single-handedly makes it look like he was going to carry the Spurs to the NBA Finals. He ends up tweaking his ankle, and that was the end of that series. Without Kawhi, the Spurs were unable to win the Western Conference Finals. But this team here, the Spurs, there is a little bit of an injury report that the Spurs need to worry about. Luke Kornet is questionable with a sore foot, and De'Aaron Fox is questionable with a sore knee. But if those two play, it should be a healthy matchup as J-Dub, who has been out since April 22nd for the Thunder, is also going to be reinserted into the lineup for the Oklahoma City Thunder. And we have a fun series that seems to have been the Western Conference Finals on paper since December. The last time these two teams actually played each other was January 13th. The Thunder came away with a 20-point victory. The Spurs were close to making it single digits down the stretch in Oklahoma City on that matchup on January 13th, but the Spurs end up losing that one. I have the entire series here for the Western Conference in the regular season, as that was a 119-98 final in Oklahoma City. It was a weird series to say the least, because the Spurs won the 5 matchups that Oklahoma City and the Spurs played 4-1. It started off with an unscheduled NBA Cup semifinal game in Las Vegas on a neutral floor. Victor Wembanyama had missed, I believe it was 12 games at that point with a strained calf. He doesn't even play in the first quarter. The Thunder go up by as much as 16 in the first quarter. They lead by 11 heading into the second quarter. Victor Wembanyama inserts himself into the series by playing and starting the second quarter of that game, the first time they played in the NBA Cup semifinal. And the Spurs proceed to win 111-109. And despite not having a big stat line, if you will, Victor Wembanyama still in 21 minutes drops 22 points, was plus 21, 9 rebounds, and 2 blocks. And the Spurs come away with that win with Wemby only playing 21 minutes, and that is obviously an encouraging sign. It was only the second loss of the season for Oklahoma City at that point. They had matched the best start in NBA history through 21 games. There was conversations of the Thunder maybe winning 74 games and breaking the record. That pretty much didn't happen, mostly because the Spurs started to break the Thunder. So that was the first time the Spurs and the Thunder met. The second time the Spurs and the Thunder met was the scheduled December 23rd game in San Antonio. And you have to think, okay, at this point, Oklahoma City is maybe trying to get a lick back on the Spurs, and this is still a stretch where Victor Wembanyama is recovering from that calf strain, so he also once again does not start in this second game between the Spurs and the Thunder. San Antonio wins that one 130-110, so 2 wins in a row for the Spurs. In that game, Victor Wembanyama, as I mentioned, comes off of the bench and drops only 12 points in 23 minutes. but he was a plus 13, so he made a difference on the court as per usual. And Wemby actually didn't record a block in that 20-point victory, but the Spurs get big boosts from Harrison Barnes, who had 20 points, 24 points for Steph Castle, 17 points for Devin Vassell, and Keldon Johnson had a huge game in that second game, 25 points to lead the Spurs in scoring, and SGA had 33 points to lead all scorers, but the Spurs do their balanced attack with pretty much everybody getting an opportunity. Even Bismack Biyombo played in that game. One of the rare poor performances for Dylan Harper on the season in terms of scoring, but D-Harp did get 10 assists in that game and finished a +8, and the Spurs go up 2-0 in the season series against the Oklahoma City Thunder. And then the next game the Spurs played the Thunder was on Christmas Day. They were the second game of the day, if I'm not mistaken, and the Spurs end up defeating the Thunder in Oklahoma City, handing them their fifth loss of the season, 117-102. And once again, Victor Wembanyama comes off of the bench for the Spurs in that game. He plays 26 minutes this time, drops 19 points, and has only one block. Victor Wembanyama did grab 11 rebounds and had an efficient enough, only 12 shots put up, and the Spurs still won 117-102. Big night from De'Aaron Fox, or big day from De'Aaron Fox on Christmas Day. 29 points, 12 rebounds, 19 field goals. Harrison Barnes had 15 points and 19 points from Steph Castle. Once again, a very balanced attack from San Antonio with Wemby coming off of the bench. And that's 3 straight wins for the Spurs. We talked about the one loss that the Spurs had. That was the last time that the teams really played. And then the February 4th matchup is one of those matchups where the Thunder saw no real value in playing the Spurs. There was no sort of, since they had won one game, this might as well try and pick up a win kind of thing. And that proceeded to be the start of Oklahoma City essentially taking 2 weeks off in the regular season. If you remember, that last game that the Spurs played in the regular season against the Thunder, it was a game day decision to sit everybody. So I'm pulling up that box score right now, and the Spurs won that fifth game, obviously, 116-106. The Thunder actually made it about as close as they've made it the entire series that they didn't win, and ended up getting good night from Kendrick Williams, who had 25 points, 24 points for J. Will, the taller Jalen Williams from Arkansas, 20 points from Aaron Wiggins. But Isaiah Hartenstein didn't play, Chet Holmgren didn't play, Lou Dort didn't play, Alex Caruso didn't play, no SGA. The Spurs sort of coasted to that win. It was one of those games where, despite it only being 10 points, it never really felt like the Spurs didn't have it well in hand. They jumped out to a 39-26 lead in the first quarter, and they won the second quarter as well. And the Spurs pretty much come away with that victory. That is the only game that Victor Wembanyama, or Wemby did start in the loss, but Wemby starts in this one in the final game of the regular season. And LG, I bring you in here now. The one thing that annoyed me the most about that Thunder game on February 4th was I was telling people if they were going to go to a game all season, that would probably be the one that they would want to go to, at least at that point of the season. And ticket prices were pretty high because of just it being the defending champions. And they game day rest everybody. I just feel so bad for the fans that showed up with, above value market tickets and hoping for a big clash of the contenders. And Oklahoma City essentially says, we'll wait for you in the finals, Western Conference Finals, that is. So they get their wish. The Spurs and the Thunder, they meet up again in the Western Conference Finals, and it feels so weird because this is I don't want to come across as arrogant, LG, but I feel like the Spurs could almost win this series in 5 games. And I kind of get the feeling that the Spurs are the Thunder's kryptonite. Am I crazy?
Yeah, I think you're kind of crazy. I'm going to say 6. But
I would like 6 because that means the Spurs close it out at home.
well, historically, if you believe in historic playoff records, anytime the Spurs have played the Thunder in the postseason, every single series has ended in 6 games.
Oh, interesting.
So I don't know if you're an odds maker in Vegas, if that makes any difference to you, but every single series, 2012, the Thunder won 4-2 in 6. 2014, Spurs won 4-2, and 2016, the Thunder won. So Thunder lead the postseason series by beating the Spurs twice in the playoffs, as opposed to the Spurs beating them once.
Maybe if we're talking about the same teams, that would make a difference to me. If it were Kevin Durant
they're
and
different
Tim Duncan.
teams. They're completely different teams. So
there's literally no carryover from either team in terms of the coaches or the talent. And I get what you're saying there, and there is something to be said about that interesting fun fact. And I would probably be good with the Spurs winning this in 6. Here's my thing. To win an NBA championship, I feel like you need to have a unique talent. Usually that's your best player. In this particular case, you have the MVP in SGA. He's not necessarily a unique talent. He doesn't necessarily do anything at a significantly different level than maybe De'Aaron Fox. There could be nights where potentially De'Aaron Fox has better games than SGA. I'm not saying that that's going to happen frequently, but they do similar things in the sense that they're just scoring lead guards. The unique piece in this particular case for the Thunder is Chet Holmgren. If it weren't for Victor Wembanyama, let's say we live in a world, luckily we do live in a world where Victor Wembanyama is here and playing in San Antonio, but let's say that we live in a world where Victor Wembanyama is not playing in basketball. Chet Holmgren would be viewed as the alien or the unicorn and the all-NBA level talent that can do so many different things. At 7'1", being thin, he's very mobile. He can stretch the floor. He can block shots. He can finish above the rim. You can use him in a very wide variety of situations. But I think he's the unique piece that makes the Thunder contenders and gives them that sort of hard to guard. What do we do with this kind of player? He's the type of player that everybody would want on their roster. And
for sure,
the Spurs negate that and have the advantage by having their best player be that super unique talent that does all those there isn't one thing that Chet Holmgren does better than Victor Wembanyama that I'm aware of. Maybe spot-up shooting. That's the one thing where Chet is actually asked to do it more.
Offensively, he's nowhere in comparison on defense to Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't be surprised if they're both considered, defensive player of the year candidates for the next several years, but no way is he anywhere near the impact.
I mean, you saw the difference in the voting there. I mean, it's unanimous. Yeah, it was unanimous.
And that's what I'm getting at is if it weren't for Wemby, Chet would get all of that attention that Wemby sort of gets, being the super unique talent that he is.
Yeah, and speaking of defense, the Spurs in this postseason are ranked number 1 in opponent field goal percentage at holding their opponents to just under 41% at 40.5. And the opposite of that is the Thunder are the best they have the highest points per game of any team in the postseason as well. So it's going to be a battle of the Titans for sure.
It is. It seemed more or less that both of these teams probably should have swept both. It would have been very boring, but Oklahoma City, they're 8-0 in the postseason. They go up against the Suns, who that should have been a series sweep for sure. But then the Lakers were banged up. There was a big surprise that it wasn't the Rockets getting past it, but LeBron does his LeBron magic, and the Rockets, without Kevin Durant, and a few other players that were injured for Houston, I think that to this point, the Thunder have had a cakewalk of the first 2 rounds. In a weird way, I think that hurts them. It also probably hurts them that J-Dub, who's an all-NBA and all-defensive player for them, has not played since April 22nd. He was also injured a good chunk of this year, so now you're working him back in the lineup. What are you going to get from him? In a weird way, you have to wonder if he's maybe going to be a detriment to his team because he needs to get back into playing shape and he needs to get back into his rhythm. And he, as much as you obviously, if you're a Thunder fan, want him back in, what does he bring to the table if he's shooting inefficiently because he hasn't played since April 22nd. That's essentially a whole month. It's May 18th today. So we go through everything here with the Spurs in the regular season, and now we talk about the Western Conference Finals, which starts tonight at 7:30. I'll be on the radio broadcast with Dan Weiss. Spurs Radio Game Night gets started at 7 o'clock. Dylan Emery will have the Spurs Countdown pregame show on WAI at 6:30. We're nowhere near done talking about this. I just wanted to recap the regular season, and now we get to go into the juicy, fun parts of talking about what's going to happen tonight here between the Thunder and the Spurs in Oklahoma City. Of course, we're going to be talking Western Conference Finals. Also got to talk Eastern Conference Finals. Where do the Pistons go from here? Where do the T-Wolves go from here? Tom Brady's modeling now. There's so many things that are happening in the sports world. We're going to talk about it all here on the starting lineup. But of course, more Spurs talk when we come back here on Ticket 760. Spurs fans, it's playoff time in San Antonio. Get in the spirit with Swish, a new Spurs-themed song produced by Warchief featuring Troy Matthews, Big Roddy, and Ice Villa. The perfect soundtrack for this playoff run.
Watch for Wemby in the middle as he's leading all the blocks, giving Govasell the Barnes as they beat the shot clock.
Streaming now on all platforms. Swish by the Warchief. And as always, go Spurs go.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Real Success. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at ourrealsuccess.com.
Do you want to learn how to make money flipping houses and acquiring rental properties right here in San Antonio without using your own money? You'll learn to flip houses and secure rental properties in your spare time to get on track towards real wealth building. We're offering a handful of motivated individuals the opportunity to attend our workshop right here in San Antonio for free. That's right, we'll give you 2 free tickets when you text FLIP to 64,000. San Antonio is the perfect market to flip houses and build rental income. Don't miss this opportunity. Come to a complimentary live 2-hour workshop next week right here in San Antonio and learn how to start making money flipping homes and building long-term wealth with rental properties. To get 2 free tickets, text FLIP to 64,000. Text in the next 10 minutes and registrants will also receive a free copy of our Funding for Deals guide. Text FLIP to 64,000 for 2 complimentary tickets. Text FLIP to 64,000.
On Plus Nicotine Pouches present Comfort Chronicles. A 10 o'clock tea time. How comfortable. You show up in stretchy shorts, a breathable tee, and maybe no socks.
Let the dogs breathe.
While others sweat in pleated khakis, you're in your comfort zone bombing drives. And in your pocket, On Plus Nicotine Pouches. The softest pouch on the planet. Buy a can at onnicotine.com. Products for tobacco consumers 21 years of age or older. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
This Sports Spotlight is brought to you by Capital One Savor Card, founding partner of iHeart Women's Sports. Did you know that in January of this year, flag football was officially added to the NCAA Emerging Sports for Women program? A step toward giving the sport NCAA championship status. Flag football will make its Olympic debut at LA 2028. Earn unlimited 3% cash back on dining, entertainment, and at grocery stores with the Savor Card from Capital One. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Voters are listening to the radio, and they're really listening. If you're running for office, radio gets your message heard, not scrolled past. Reach communities everywhere and be on the air in just 48 hours. Go to winwithiheart.com. That's winwithiheart.com.
Hey guys, this is Jamie from Blackstone Yoga San Antonio, and we would like to invite you to join our Summer 75 Challenge. It's running from June 1st to August 31st. Commit to taking 75 classes this summer, and you'll be entered to win yoga for life. This is more than a challenge. It's all about building community. If you're new to the studio, jump in on our summer sale starting May 22nd. The first month is half off of our OG rate, making the first month $44. You can't beat that. We can't wait to flow with you and hope you crush it on your challenge.
Hey San Antonio sports fans, imagine your business scoring big with thousands of passionate listeners who are already fired up about local sports. Right now you're one of thousands tuned into Ticket 760. This is the raw power of live radio, immediate, loyal, and impossible to scroll past. The starting lineup is looking for sponsors who want direct access to this engaged audience. Sponsors also get professional social media production included. Shoot us an email at thestartinglineupshow@gmail.com. Team up with the starting lineup on Ticket 760. 760.
Class of 2026, it's your year. Celebrate the music that fueled late night crams, hallway hangs, and every unforgettable moment with iHeartRadio's Ultimate Class of 2026 playlist. The soundtrack to your senior year and beyond. But we didn't stop there. Whether you graduated in 95, 05, or just last year, we've got a playlist for your class too. Search Class of and the year you graduated on the free iHeartRadio app and relive your glory days, one song at a time.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, the music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Heat blades, silver and black. Back to Carl Schoening in the starting lineup.
Yes, sir, it is the starting lineup on Ticket 760. I'm your host, Carl Schoening. LG making sure we look good on the YouTube feed, sound good going out over the radio. LG, how can they get in touch with the show and interact? I get a feeling there's a lot of Spurs fans that want to chirp in and give their 2 cents on the matchup tonight against the Oklahoma City Thunder in the Western Conference Finals.
Of course, you can interact with us live on the YouTube channel. Throw us your chat up in here at Starting Lineup Live on YouTube. We are also on all social medias at Starting Lineup Live. That is the handle. You can also jump into the Buy Me a Coffee, which allows you to send us a tip if you want to help support this show a little financially. Coffee can be bought at buymeacoffee.com/the starting lineup. And we'll either use that for coffee, matcha, or probably some energy drinks there.
Yeah, I am already on energy drink. I love me some matcha. It takes a little bit too much for me to actually make it at home. And then, I also think that sometimes it's a little too sweet when I buy it at stores. So got to get a good matcha place that's open at 5 a.m.
Well, matcha's not sweet when you have it by itself. It's when you start to make it into lattes and have it with ice cream. That's when the sugar gets added to it. Matcha isn't sweet on its own. But we've got some comments already coming in here. Robert Silva is on the YouTube channel. He says, "Good morning, gentlemen. Listening to y'all while setting up the golf course at La Cantera. Spurs are the Thunder's kryptonite. Spurs in 5.
Hey, I appreciate that. I actually would love to start golfing again. It would be fun to find a sponsor that would, help me get addicted to golf. I used to golf when I was a teenager. I was pretty decent at it, but I enjoyed playing basketball and sprinting and running and jumping. I do not enjoy running and jumping and sprinting anymore, so golf seems like it would actually be a nice change of pace. So let's.
Well, you can run and jump and sprint. Just don't use a golf cart and run and jump and sprint to the next hole.
No, I don't want to do that anymore.
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. I'm gonna have to figure out a way to go into, because I have old clubs and maybe I figure out something about that. But no, we appreciate everybody tuning in. So the only injury for the Oklahoma City Thunder is Thomas Sorber, who is out with an ACL tear. And the injury report for the Spurs is De'Aaron Fox, right ankle soreness, Luke Cornett, left foot soreness. I get the feeling both of them will play, but they're listed as questionable. There's doubtful, questionable, and probable. Both of them, I guess, are in that 50-50 range. And that's where I want to start this segment off is, how do the Spurs match up against the Oklahoma City Thunder? SGA, named the MVP, will be given his award in front of Victor Wembanyama. So let's start there at the 2 MVP candidates in this series. SGA thrives off of getting to the rim. He is somebody who gets to the free throw line. He has just a tremendous ability to score, especially in the clutch. If there's games that are tight in this series, then SGA is probably going to hit some clutch shots that could rip your heart out if you're a Spurs fan. I just have to prepare you for that. That being said, the Spurs do some really good things that could probably keep SGA in check. The Spurs are among the best and the best in the NBA postseason at playing defense without fouling. So it'll be a good test for the Spurs to really go with their traditional defensive schemes of, we're not going to play too physical. We're going to try and get in your face. But the Spurs, as good as they are in terms of playing physical and fighting through physicality that other teams throw at them, They are really good at not fouling themselves. That's something that I feel like was very apparent in the Spurs versus the Timberwolves series, is that they didn't necessarily, they were able to sort of match physicality, but they didn't become an overly physical team and play into the Timberwolves game plan. That ended up helping them as the Spurs were able to get to the free throw line more while also keeping the Timberwolves off of the free throw line for the most part. And that's a trend that I think will probably be big here as the Spurs want to keep SGA off of the free throw line. And then on top of that, you have, assuming Luke Cornett plays, you have two elite shot blockers that will change up the way SGA navigates in the paint. So while SGA most of the time has the ability to get to the rim and get to his shots and get to the free throw line, I think the Spurs are going to change that up just enough. SGA is still going to get his, don't get me wrong, but I feel like it's going to change him up just enough that he's not quite the level of MVP that he is with every other team. The Spurs present those unique challenges that they match up really well with the Thunder. The Thunder match up really well with any team in the NBA, but the Spurs, I feel like they have the edge in a lot of places. So when we look at that matchup with SGA, he's probably going to be guarded by Steph Castle. I imagine De'Aaron Fox is going to get some opportunities on him. Dylan Harper, who's also a good defender, will be thrown at him at times, I'm sure. Do the Spurs maybe throw Devin Vassell on him sometimes? It's going to be a kitchen sink thing. It's going to be everybody in the kitchen sink. There's not going to be one primary defender, but I would assume that Steph Castle will be tasked with guarding SGA a good chunk. And then, really, there's just a lot of shooters around SGA. It's a 5-out offense. Isaiah Hartenstein's the only one that you really wouldn't expect to be a floor spacer in that starting lineup. I think that Alex Caruso is one of the better defensive and offensive players in the league. Two-way player, if you will. Not talking about the guys that spend most of the time in the G League. He is a ball hawk. Alex Caruso can really create some turnovers and cause some chaos. I feel like Alex Caruso and Cason Wallace are very similar players. They can knock down open jumpers, and they can also create defensively playmake, if you will. On the defensive side of the ball, I think that both of those guys get steals, get out and run. That'll be important for the Spurs to take care of the basketball around those two. The Spurs usually do a good job of taking care of the basketball, but they're not necessarily a team that's looking to force turnovers. They'll play you straight up and try and funnel you towards their shot blockers. And that's, going back to your point, LG, a big part of why the Spurs were the best in terms of field goal percentage defense and through this postseason. I think that's something that will continue to be a trend. So if the Spurs can take care of the ball, you almost negate some of the effectiveness of a Cason Wallace and a Alex Caruso. Lou Dort is a hard-nosed wing defender. He might be the best perimeter defender in this series. I think you could probably argue that. We'll have to see where J-Dub is in terms of his progress of being out on the court. I wouldn't be surprised if he comes out and has a big game. I also wouldn't be surprised if he comes out and he has a dud of a game. He didn't necessarily have a great series against the Spurs when he did play in this regular season matchup. But then, really, LG, there's something about, I guess, the Spurs. If you remember the last time the Spurs lost to the Thunder, it was that January 13th game. It was the last time that the Spurs lost back-to-back games. They also lost to the Minnesota Timberwolves. And that was when Keldon Johnson and Victor Wembanyama shaved their heads. And since then, the Spurs have not lost back-to-back games. And that's 4 months ago now. So in a weird way, the Spurs and the Thunder are two very different teams. They also added Jared McCain, who I like a lot. I think Jared McCain is somebody who brings a little bit of playmaking and shooting. And as a 76ers fan, I was really mad that Daryl Morey got rid of him. Seems like that was probably a consensus around Philadelphia that the Sixers could have used Jared McCain for whatever reason. He was in Nick Nurse's doghouse for a good chunk of the year, and the Sixers were still able to sell high on him, just happened to sell him to the defending champions who didn't give up anything for him. But when it comes to the Spurs and the Thunder, you look at those wing players I mentioned, I'm not knocking any of those players, but I don't think that I would trade any of the Spurs wings for any of the Thunder wings. In fact, I'm not going to say that SGA and De'Aaron Fox are on the same level, but they're close enough that I'm not thinking that you're getting a huge jump from SGA from De'Aaron Fox, that it makes that much of a difference when you now look at the accumulation of both wings for the Spurs and the Thunder, that you go down the list. Julian Champagnie, sharpshooter. Devin Vassell, sharpshooter. Both of them play pretty good defense. I don't necessarily think that I would J Dub is pretty good. Not gonna take anything away from him. He could be the X factor in this series, and maybe the one player out on the perimeter / forward spot that I could say is somebody that, he probably is a significant upgrade over some players on the Spurs. But again, the Spurs did a good job keeping him in check when he did play in the regular season. I'll get you some of those numbers a little bit later on in the show. And then talking about the front court, Chet Holmgren versus Victor Wembanyama, point Spurs. That'll be a big thing because it goes back to when they were teenagers playing for their countries. Chet won with USA, and I think from that point on, Wemby sort of said, we're going to be compared against each other, and I don't want it to be even close. So there's a fieriness there for Wemby. And Victor Wembanyama is also going to have to watch SGA get the MVP award in front of him. So when you look at the two best players, I kind of get the feeling Wemby is poised for a big series. I was looking at everyone's going to draw comparisons to this. I was looking at the series where Hakeem Olajuwon had to watch David Robinson get his MVP award in front of him, and Hakeem proceeded to just go nuts in that series. I think every single game, Hakeem was the leading scorer in the games, and he had a couple 40-point nights. So this sort of feels like a Hakeem Olajuwon versus David Robinson in 1995, I guess, rerun, if you will, because the Spurs are going to have a little bit extra motivation having seen SGA get that trophy and think that that was Victor Wembanyama's award to win. So when it comes to the front court, I like the fact that the Spurs probably have the matchup advantage over Chet, and I would say Isaiah Hartenstein presents an interesting problem, but at the same time, he is just a rugged front court big man that might guard Wemby sometimes. We'll have to see what they do there as Chet and Isaiah Hartenstein are in for a long series against Wemby. The Thunder also occasionally throw Alex Caruso onto Wemby. So even though Caruso's not a front court player, he might get opportunities to guard Wemby, in which case the Spurs need to be ready for that sort of wrinkle that they had been seeing in the regular season matchup. I don't know, LG. I'm pretty confident. I think you can tell. I want to say that the Spurs win this in 5. I know that that's probably slightly arrogant, but it just feels like the Spurs have a advantage almost everywhere you look. And if there's any advantage to the Thunder, it doesn't feel significantly. It doesn't feel as significant as Wemby over Chet, if you get what I'm saying. Like, that's where the biggest gap is in any of the matchups, is that I think Wemby's going to come out and dominate whoever they throw at him. And he's going to have so many different looks, whether it's Chet, Isaiah, or one of their guards that sort of changes up the way Wemby can keep him from putting the ball on the floor. But I just feel like this is a series where Wemby's going to lead the Spurs to the finals. It feels like that is almost predestined. And the Thunder, I will say, Oklahoma City, the officiating, the way that crowd dictates sort of the energy and momentum, it's worth 10 points.
That's true. And you mentioned earlier that the Spurs don't foul a lot on defense. And if they can keep that up, keep the Thunder off the line, the Thunder are shooting a postseason leading 85.4% from free throw. That is a crazy high number. And if you can keep them off the line, because we all know that, Shea is the foul merchant, and the officiating, they do have home court advantage, so the officiating may lean in their favor for the majority of the games. Spurs need to keep them off the line. That's a big key to the victories.
Yeah, that'll certainly be a key, how they officiate the game. But the Spurs, they just came out of that physical series against the Timberwolves, and I think that it'll be a nice and refreshing change of pace to have a team that probably also doesn't want to foul either. So they don't. I don't think the Thunder are a team that really ups the physicality anywhere near the way that the Timberwolves almost resorted to try and stretch that series out. If it isn't for the Timberwolves being very physical, I think the Spurs probably win that series in 5 because Wemby doesn't get ejected in game 4 because he, I think, appropriately reacts with that elbow that had him ejected for a flagrant 2. And, of course, if Julian Champagnie had a chance to make a 3 at the end of game 1. So these are two teams that very well could be both 8-0 meeting in the Western Conference Finals. The Spurs, the only time they lost in the playoffs were weird Wemby games, such as the game where Wemby went into concussion protocol against the Blazers, and the game where Wemby gets ejected, and the one game where Wemby wasn't necessarily involved in the offense, or at least knocking down shots the way we're accustomed to seeing Victor Wembanyama do it. So both teams very much going to be well match up. It's going to be a fun series, but man, y'all are going to have to talk me out of being so confident about the Spurs' chances in winning this in 5 games. I obviously have the right to change my opinion, but going into this series, I just think the Spurs have Oklahoma City Thunder kryptonite. And we will be talking all about that on the starting lineup. But we shift gears to the other side of the NBA playoff bracket, talk about the Cavaliers knocking off the Pistons and how they match up against the Knicks on the other side of this break here on Ticket 760.
On May 18th, 1997, the Spurs won the NBA draft lottery for the second time in franchise history. Later that summer, used the number 1 pick to select Tim Duncan out of Wake Forest. Spurs won the lottery despite only having a 21% chance at the number 1 overall pick, surpassing the Boston Celtics, who had a 36% chance at capturing the prize. Duncan would go on to have a Hall of Fame career while leading the Spurs to the playoffs in all 19 of his seasons in the league. That's today's Spurs Flashback. I'm Dan Weiss.
Live to back the silver and black? Make your fandom for real by joining the official Spurs fan club. It's the fastest free way to score exclusive access to all things Spurs. We're talking early access, exclusive giveaways, partner offers, and more. All sent straight to your inbox. To become a member or learn more, visit spurs.com/fan club. Season presented by H-E-B.
Almost 90 years ago, Academy Sports and Outdoors was born right here in Texas. So we know a thing or two about a thing or two. Like beans don't belong in Chile. It's called a feeder road. And how far really means how long. We've been your neighbor for generations. That's why we're adding Texas-sized deals across the store, only in Texas. If you happen to find a better price at a competitor, we'll beat it by 5%. Academy. Fun can't lose.
Hi there, I'm John O'Hurley. You know, our pets are beloved family members. But sadly, though, there are so many dogs that get euthanized every day due to the lack of funding. To give them a chance at adoption, I invite you to support Puppy Food Bank. Thanks to generous donors like you, all of the food sent to pet shelters from Puppy Food Bank never comes with a bill. So please go to puppyfoodbank.org and make a generous, caring $15 donation every month. Your donation will absolutely save pet lives.
When people ask what we handle at Absolute Power, the answer is simple. Generators, absolutely. EV chargers, absolutely. Electrical issues, panel upgrades, and much more, absolutely. I'm George Salinas. At Absolute Power, we absolutely care for your home's electrical needs with dependable service you can trust. Call today at 210-904-1521 or visit absolute-pwr.com to schedule your free estimate. Absolute Power Electrical Contractors at your service.
Pantalones Organic Tequila. Because tequila is fun. Pantalones.
For more information about contests on this station, go to ticket760.com/rules.
As a social influencer, my days can be busy. 4 a.m., I hit the gym. 4:32, protein smoothie. 5:08, save time and money bundling my home and auto insurance with Progressive. Wait, if I bundle and save time, what would I do then? Just sit here and reflect? Like, why am I qualified to influence anyone? And how those weights are hollow? And half of my followers are bots?
You could save time and money bundling your home and auto when you switch to Progressive. It's one less thing to worry about during your already busy day. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers. Not available in all states or situations.
Pool days call for cookouts and lots of laundry. This Memorial Day at Lowe's, save $80 on a Charbroil Performance Series 4-burner gas grill. Now just $199. Plus, get up to 45% off select major appliances to keep dishes, clothes, and food fresh. Having fun in the sun is easy with us in your corner. Our best lineup is here at Lowe's. Valid through 5/27. While supplies last. Selection varies by location. See associate or Lowe's.com for details.
President Trump doesn't trust backstabbing rhino Chip Roy because Chip Roy betrayed MAGA. Roy backed Liz Cheney and pushed to impeach President Trump.
President of the United States deserves universal condemnation for impeachable conduct.
Then Chip Roy helped illegal aliens avoid deportation. And Roy even supported perverts and predators by siding with Gavin Newsom and the trans lobby to push transgender surgeries for children. When we fought back, Roy told MAGA voters,
"You can kiss my ass."
MAGA Mays Middleton stood with President Trump against perverts and predators, stopped radical transgender surgeries for kids, banned men from girls' sports, kicked trans perverts out of women's restrooms, and MAGA Mays banned radical Muslim groups from buying property in Texas and is stopping Sharia law in Islamic enclaves. That's why President Trump called Mays a MAGA champion with a conservative record that is second to none. MAGA Mays Middleton for Texas Attorney General.
Political ad paid for by the Mays Middleton campaign.
Your ticket for the best Spurs talk. Back to the starting lineup.
Starting lineup on Ticket 760. I'm your host, Carl Schoening. LG in the starting lineup with me. You can reach out to me on Twitter at OnAirCarl. You can find LG on the social medias at DJLG210. You can also reach out to the show by leaving a comment on our YouTube page, and you can also find us on the iHeart app. If you happen to be listening to old school terrestrial radio, we sound a lot better by listening on the app, and it's free. So go ahead and make sure you tune in on that one. LG, anybody, any other ways to listen into the conversation?
Yeah, you can listen in the future on Spotify. We do have a Spotify account at the starting lineup, and you can also listen anywhere you like to get your podcast from. We're on Amazon Music. We're on Apple Podcasts. You name it, we're there.
Yeah, I think it's funny. One of my friends and mentors and business partners, Mike Capps, he's 76 now. I asked him one time because I was just curious. I said, "Where do you listen to your podcasts?" And he said, "Usually the internet."
Oh, okay.
And I thought that was just a great answer.
What the hell is the internet?
Yeah, I thought that was a great answer. Just usually the internet. Shout out to Kid to Kid Hebner Road, their new sponsor. You'll be hearing their ads this week. You can get on this show and support us, and we support you and figure it out. Kid to Kid Hebner Road, they have some really cool Spurs bows coming up. They're trying to celebrate, so you want to check them out. You can
Kid to Kid is a clothing resale store for kids' clothing and toys and all sorts of stuff for kids.
They have a dollar sale going on right now, so check that out because I don't have a kid, but I do know how expensive it is, and sometimes you just got to, get them through their LG, I need to be careful because I don't know how kids work, but don't they grow out of clothes super fast?
Quickly, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so, there's a lot of chance for resale there. So if you got some old clothes laying around that the kids have outgrown and you don't have a hand-me-down to a younger sibling, send it to Kid, Hebner Road, and get some money.
Yeah, trade is there too. I am so far from that reality. I appreciate them taking a chance on two single guys like us that don't have kids, but we definitely do like to promote our sponsors and business partners here. One of the things I wanted to touch on real quick was last night in Detroit, the Pistons season came to a close. Love the way that the Pistons played all year long. They brought back a vibe of that bad boy style play. Cade Cunningham would have been in the MVP conversation if they had maybe won a few more games. Jalen Duren really took a step in the right direction. He's only 22 years old, but he did get outplayed by the more experienced front court of the Cavaliers in this series, and I think overall it wasn't a great playoffs for Jalen Duren, but he still has a bright future. There's a weird side of me that wants to say that what happened to the Pistons is what people expected to happen to the Spurs, where they say they're just not experienced enough yet. They need one more piece maybe. And just because we like to bring this back to the Spurs don't seem to be missing that piece. There maybe is a piece that could upgrade, but I don't think the Spurs are missing a piece. Going to the Pistons, they are missing that secondary scorer. How are they going to acquire that secondary scorer? I don't know. I haven't really taken a deep dive into the assets that they're able to jump around with, but I do know that free agency is very much not a thing anymore in the NBA, so you have to acquire your talent through the draft or through a trade. There will be quite a bit of movement in the offseason. A lot of players are going to be jumping around, and that'll be an opportunity for the Pistons to find that secondary scorer that'll complement Cade Cunningham. Maybe Ron Holland makes a jump. I think that would be a good bet in terms of being a wing scorer, but Ron Holland, somebody who is only in his second year, he needs to make his strides as well for the Pistons to improve. And the Cavaliers, congratulations to them winning this 7-game series, picking up their first 2 road wins of the playoffs in big Game 5s and Game 7s. I like to give a big shout out to Dan Gilbert, who paid for 25 busloads of Cavs fans to go from Cleveland to Detroit in both Games 5 and 7. I think something like that is probably a big factor in the series, and maybe the Cavaliers don't win if they don't have the fan base that made the trip to Detroit. It's a big difference when you hear a good chunk of people, and 25 busloads of people will make a difference in an arena. When it comes to, I guess, what the Pistons do next, it really is sort of a, hey, this was a happy year for them. Don't look at it and be sad that you didn't make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. You were not expected to do what you did. If you're the Pistons, you be happy with a experience gained of being 1 game away from the Eastern Conference Finals instead of being sad about it, in which case I think that there's a lot to build off of. The one thing that I think sort of is interesting to me, LG, about the NBA is there are teams like the Cavaliers who 2 years ago, they were also a very similar situation to the Pistons, where they were a young team and they ended up getting the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference by winning 60 games. And then there becomes a little bit of fatigue where 82 games doesn't mean as much because you know that you've won 60 games in the past. So thus, you sort of put a little less emphasis on the 82 games moving forward because you've done it before and you know that you need to save your energy for the postseason. That's probably going to be what happens next year for the Pistons. They probably win 55 games. They find that secondary player somehow, and maybe next year they make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, but they don't have the same regular season that they had. And the scouting report's also out on them. Teams take them a little bit more seriously. But those 2 games that the Spurs played against the Pistons were very big tests for the Spurs. That game in Detroit was a bloodbath. It was a lot of fun. That was one of the biggest Spurs wins of the season. And then when the Pistons came back, I think less than a month later, if I'm not mistaken, that was another fun big win for the Spurs. They jump out early, and they ended up coming away with the series sweep against the Pistons, who were the Eastern Conference 1 seed. They go packing up and head to Cancun or wherever they want to take their vacation. Cade Cunningham's from Arlington, if I'm not mistaken. He's from the DFW area for sure. So I imagine Cade Cunningham's going to be coming down and enjoying some Texas heat. Maybe he stays in Detroit where it's a little bit cooler. I don't know exactly what his summer plans are, but if there's another reason to appreciate the Pistons, it is that Cade Cunningham is a Texas kid. Cavaliers-Knicks, I want to get into that one in hour 2 of the starting lineup. I really want the Knicks to go to the NBA Finals. Very tempting for me to say Spurs-Knicks Finals would be something where I would splurge my money and figure out a way to slum it in New York for a few days. If I get a opportunity to go into a finals game at Madison Square Garden, that would be just a highlight of my sports life. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. I got to talk about the Cavaliers and the Knicks in hour number 2. Spurs and Thunder will certainly be here, and we talk about some miscellaneous things in the sports world as well on this show. Find out what miscellaneous thing I'm talking about next. An all-time great quarterback joins the catwalk, I think is what it's called. We'll talk about that and more here on Ticket 760. Kids grow faster than paychecks and somehow need a whole new wardrobe every 6 months. Tiny little financial consultants with juice boxes. At Kid to Kid Huebner Road, you can buy and sell gently used kids' clothes, toys, baby gear, shoes, cleats, and even score pro and college fan gear for your future MVP. Kid to Kid buys size preemie through 20 youth and pay cash or 20% or more in store credit. Save money, clear the clutter, and shop sustainably. Located at Huebner and Northwest Military. Follow at Kid to Kid Huebner Road on Instagram. Kid to Kid Huebner Road. Buy, sell, save.
On Plus Nicotine Pouches present Comfort Chronicles. A 10 o'clock tea time. How comfortable. You show up in stretchy shorts, a breathable tee, and maybe no socks.
Let the dogs breathe.
While others sweat in pleated khakis, you're in your comfort zone bombing drives. And in your pocket, On Plus Nicotine Pouches. The softest pouch on the planet. Buy a can at onnicotine.com. Products for tobacco consumers 21 years of age or older. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
Got a DWI? Don't wait. What you do next matters. Not all classes are accepted by Texas courts. Before you pay, make sure it's state approved and live. Alamo Center has helped Texans for over 30 years complete their court-ordered DWI and drug education classes live and instructor-led. No pre-recorded videos. Real instructors, real support. Classes fill up fast. Secure your spot today. Speak to a live person now. Call 210-824-5537 or visit alamocenter.org. Alamo Center. The road back starts here.
In this edition of the Marketer's Report, Chris Eppel, head of marketing for the Americas, Harman JBL, weighs in on the importance of audio.
It's been amazing over the last couple of years to see what's happened with audio. We've doubled our investment in the last 2 years in the audio space. We find it to be highly critical to our business.
As the #1 audio company, iHeartMedia connects marketers to the audiences, live conversations, and trusted influencers you need to grow. If you're a marketer, go to iHeartAdvertising.com.
That red talkback mic on the free iHeart app, it's more powerful than it looks. One tap can get you in the conversation.
You guys, are you serious?
Enter to win something amazing.
That $1,000.
Or just a request.
What up?
Try it now. Just open the free iHeart Radio app.
San Antonio. Your San Antonio Toros are back. The San Antonio Toros kick off their season against the Tennessee Hornets this Sunday, 7 o'clock, Benson Stadium on the UIW campus. Tailgating starts at 3. Bring the whole family and let's get loud. Tickets available now at COFLToros.com. Starting at just $10. Affordable family fun all season long. Support your local professional football team. Come early, be loud. Vamos Toros.
Hey guys, this is Jamie from Blackstone Yoga San Antonio, and we would like to invite you to join our Summer 75 Challenge. It's running from June 1st to August 31st. Commit to taking 75 classes this summer, and you'll be entered to win yoga for life. This is more than a challenge. It's all about building community. If you're new to the studio, jump in on our summer sale starting May 22nd. The first month is half off of our OG rate, making the first month $44. You can't beat that. We can't wait to flow with you and hope you crush it on your challenge.
The lead singer of the 1970s band Dr. Hook, Dennis Locorrier, has died. Michael Kastner reports.
Sylvia's mother says Sylvia's busy.
His rep confirmed he died at the age of 76 following a long and courageous battle with kidney disease. Locorrier is best known for such hits as Sylvia's Mother, on the cover of the Rolling Stone, and When You're in Love with a Beautiful Woman, during a career spanning nearly 6 decades. He was also a songwriter who helped found the group, originally called Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show. I'm Michael Kastner.
A Stevie Nicks biography will soon hit the shelves. Mark Mayfield fills us in.
And
It's called Lessons and Lace and was written by music journalist Rachel Brodsky. It'll go into detail about her battle with sexist narratives and addiction, her journey to success, and more. Lessons and Lace will be available in hardcover, ebook, and audio formats September the 15th. I'm Mark Mayfield.
The 61st Academy of Country Music Awards are in the books. Ella Langley was the big winner of the night, taking home 4 awards, including Female Artist of the Year and Song of the Year for Choosing Texas. That's entertainment. I'm Jonathan O'Halloran.
Strong coffee, stronger taste. Back to Carl Schoening in the starting lineup.
Hour 1 of the starting lineup wrapping up here on Ticket 760. I'm your host, Carl Schoening. LG in the starting lineup with me. LG, it is a catwalk. I confirmed that on these fashion things that people sometimes go to, there, you show off new clothes, and making his catwalk debut, Tom Brady. He is at a Gucci event at Times Square in New York City, and he is rocking leather in black, head to toe, and this actually seems what Tom Brady's made for. He's the owner of the Raiders, so of course he had to rock that black. He's a broadcaster, 6-time Super Bowl champion. So I think Brady is a very interesting character in our life, and this seems to be yet another thing that he does in his very unique life. He has perhaps one of the coolest lives of anybody, I think, in the world. I don't think there's too many people that have cooler life than Tom Brady, and he adds this modeling gig to it. But, Gucci, good for him. I know nothing about fashion. You know anything about fashion, LG?
Oh, yeah, because, look at me. I'm wearing my plain black tee and my Spurs hat. I'm very fashionable.
Yeah, you at least match sometimes. Your hats,
I know
your
nothing
shoes.
about fashion.
No.
I get my fashion from what I see the NBA players wearing at the games.
Yeah, that's really become a fun thing in sports, especially at the NBA level, is the walk-ins and what people decide to wear and all those fun little side things.
I just recently learned that the new trend is, when everyone's wearing sweatpants, right? You tuck your sweatpants into your socks so you can show off your socks now.
Oh, goodness.
That's the new trend.
I don't know how I get most of my clothes, to be honest with you. Mostly Amazon, I would suppose. I'm more of a value hunter than I am somebody who is willing to drop whatever ridiculous amount Gucci is going to be wearing. In fact, as camera enthusiast, LG, it's funny. I have a joke sometimes that I'll run with our camera enthusiasts of the female side of things. The women, it's like, oh, does she like Gucci or Louis? It's worse. She likes Sony, because if you're someone who's a camera enthusiast, the price is there. It is a very expensive game to get into. I was very disappointed to find out that camera gear is so expensive when I actually got into it.
Canon would be the upper echelon there, and then you've got the really luxurious people who pull out their Leica cameras, and you're like, oh, okay, I see what's going on here. You're the Gucci, you're the Louis people.
Oh, I really want a Hasselblad, the medium format, 100 megapixel, I guess $10,000 cameras. But
good luck.
Yeah, I'm more likely to shoot the photos of Tom Brady than I am to be Tom Brady on the catwalk. But I do want to say shout out to Tom Brady. It probably takes some guts walking down that catwalk. You're just walking, but what if you trip? There's sort of that
happens all the time.
Yeah, you got to be ready for anything on those. So hey, congratulations, Tom Brady, scratching off another thing on his list. I actually very much enjoy him when I see him in shows. He does occasional acting. He plays Tom Brady, of course. And maybe I really like Tom Brady because Nick Foles beat him in the Super Bowl, and I'm an Eagles fan as well. So I have no ill will towards Tom Brady and his success because the Philadelphia Eagles actually cost him a Super Bowl, and Nick Foles beat him. Don't get me started on the 2018 Philadelphia Eagles. That was a fun time for me. Got to watch that Super Bowl with my dad and Keith Moreland. A lot of fun when the Eagles beat Tom Brady and the Patriots. My brother, who's also an Eagles fan, is married to a Patriots fan, so that must have been an awkward watch-along for them. But no, I enjoy Tom Brady and the character that he is in our life. Congratulations to him to making his catwalk debut. When we come back, we talk more Spurs Thunder, we talk more NBA playoffs here on Ticket 760.
Summer weather on its way. It's going to be super hot. How's your AC system? You can call Manuel and Sons today and get a 1.5 to 5 ton Frederick 15 SEER for just $77.95. A spring tune-up, $89. Call them at 549-4839, manuelandsons.com.
Why do the national tax resolution firms need the tiny fine print at the bottom of all their TV ads? Hi, this is Lance Drury with the Lance Drury Law Firm. You don't hear fast talk and disclaimers in our ads because the claims we make are 100% transparent. The Lance Drury Law Firm primarily focuses on one thing, IRS problems, and we're regulated by the Bar Association, and we have a AAA rating with the Better Business Bureau. IRS issues are serious legal issues. The Lance Drury Law Firm has helped thousands of clients navigate the best resolution plans, and we tell you up front exactly how much it'll cost. Tax resolution law is all we do. So before you send money to some out-of-town, high-pressure salesperson, give us a call at the Lance Drury Law Firm. Located right here in San Antonio. Call today to schedule your free consultation with me, 726-202-1300, or visit Lance, DRURYlaw.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
There's another one and another one.
Spurs fans, it's playoff time in San Antonio. Get in the spirit with Swish, a new Spurs-themed song produced by War Chief featuring Troy Matthews, Big Roddy, and Ice Villa. The perfect soundtrack for this playoff run.
Watch for Wemby in the middle as he's leading all the blocks, giving go for Sella Barnes as they beat the shot clock.
Streaming now on all platforms. Swish by the War Chief. And as always, go Spurs go.
iHeartRadio brings you New to View, Streaming Edition.
Looking for something to watch? Listen up. Next week on Netflix, Wednesday, the second season premiere of A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, as well as the fourth season finale of Perfect Match. Next Thursday on Netflix, the season 2 debut of the 4 seasons starring Tina Fey, Will Forte, Coleman Domingo, and more. Next Friday on Netflix, the launch of the reality show Calabasas Confidential, as well as the Spanish documentary on tennis star Rafael Nadal titled Rafa. Next Monday on Acorn TV, the start of the psychological thriller Summer Water. Next Wednesday on Amazon Prime Video, the launch of the new Marvel series Spider Noir, starring Nicolas Cage. Next Thursday on Hulu, the season 2 premiere of Deli Boys. Next Thursday over on Paramount Plus, the 4th season launch of Criminal Minds Evolution. And next Friday on Apple TV, the series start of Star City, as well as the John Travolta film Propeller One-Way Night Coach.
And that's New to View on iHeartRadio. Happy binging.
This is Ticket 760, KTKR San Antonio, your home for sports. Guaranteed human. Make us the #1 preset in your car and on the free new and improved iHeartRadio app. This is the starting lineup. Here's your host, Carl Schoening.
What's going on, y'all? I'm your host, Carl Schoening. This is the starting lineup. We have a lot to dive into here as the Cavaliers are bounced the Pistons, I should say. The Spurs are playing in Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals, and SGA wins the MVP. Start right there as we are in San Antonio, Texas. And, LG, I want to bring you in right away on this because you brought up something pretty interesting to me. It's the Spurs have the best defensive field goal percentage in the NBA playoffs.
Also lead the playoffs in blocks per game.
Yes, and a lot of that has to do with Victor Wembanyama.
And rebounds.
That's a good one, actually. Yep. That's actually very important to note because I think all of those are going to be very big in this series. Yeah, the one thing that really I think we should talk about this is SGA is going to be handed the MVP trophy. Victor Wembanyama finishes 3rd in the voting. Nikola Jokic finishes 2nd. And get him while you can, SGA. Yeah. Bit of a bummer. However, I like this for the Spurs because it's going to be, you talk about somebody like a Michael Jordan. Sometimes he just needed something. These competitors, they needed a little motivation, something that even if it wasn't real, right? Shaquille O'Neal almost famously made up things in his head to get mad at his opponents. In fact, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I hate to not say something true. Maybe you even know about this, LG.
Is it the D-Rob thing?
Yes. So Shaq claims that David Robinson didn't give him shoes or something.
He refused to give him an autograph.
He refused to give him an autograph, and that never happened.
No.
It was something Shaq made up in his head.
He admitted to it, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Shaq admitted that I made something up that drove me to compete harder against David Robinson, who you talk about the 90s and early 2000s. Shaq versus David Robinson was very much watched TV. And the Spurs now have something that is not manufactured. It is manufactured by the media, sure, because they get the voting in there for the MVP. But Victor Wembanyama laid out his case in the regular season that he should be the MVP. Anybody around the Spurs, whether it's me, players, coaches, will all say Victor Wembanyama is the best player in the world and thus the most valuable player. However, SGA plays a few more games, wins a couple more games, and becomes the 14th player to win back-to-back MVPs. Most recent one was Steph Curry. I like that this happened for the Spurs because Wemby gets that extra motivation. Wemby worked out with Hakeem Olajuwon over the summer. Hakeem said that it wasn't necessarily Hakeem. I think it was Jamal Crawford who said that Wemby downloads things faster than anybody he's ever worked with. He basically took away from what Hakeem gave him to stuff that he's able to now work into his game. I want to see that Hakeem. I saw David Robinson get the MVP award in front of me. I feel like that's my trophy mentality from Victor Wembanyama, which is something that Wemby can do, but he's only done in spurts. I feel like there's very few games this year where Wemby came in and said, I'm going to be the man from the jump, start to finish. And that's more because Wemby is a team player and the Spurs as a unit like to be greater than the sum of their parts by having everybody knock down shots and get involved. And, Steph Castle or De'Aaron Fox or Dylan Harper or Devin Vassell, any of those players can go out and have big nights for the Spurs to where if Wemby decides that he's going to have a big night, could be to their detriment. That being said, there is no more unstoppable player on the offensive end of the court in basketball than Victor Wembanyama. If the Spurs can get him going early and keep him going late, I think that at some point, Victor Wembanyama is going to break Michael Jordan's 63 points in a single playoff game record. And why not tonight? Maybe the Spurs jump out to such a big lead that Wemby doesn't even need to break the 63-point record. I get the feeling that at some point in this series, you're just going to see Victor Wembanyama so motivated that he comes away with a performance that just puts the league on notice that 22-year-old Victor Wembanyama is the most valuable player, and he should have gotten those votes. And how silly the voters look now that Nikola Jokic flamed out in the first round. I know it's a regular season award, but it almost feels like something that we should hold off the MVP vote for another first couple rounds of the playoffs. It's given in the Western Conference Finals, or it's given in the Conference Finals, I should say. Should it be an Eastern Conference player who wins it as well? Why not just hold off and let the voting go into the second round? I get it, regular season award. However, when it comes to the MVP, the most coveted award in basketball, maybe the extra 2 weeks, 3 weeks of the playoffs should come into a calculation there, because I think Victor Wembanyama probably at least finishes second in voting. There might still be people who say they're going to still vote for SGA, and I understand it. I'm not necessarily knocking anybody for voting for SGA. I'm just saying they're wrong. And that's really where I think that Wemby gets a chance to prove it. And it'll be tonight, 7:30 tip-off in Oklahoma City. Interestingly enough, LG, something worth noting is that these are actually going to be earlier tip-off times than usual. So 7:30 is kind of a guideline of a start time. It'll be a little after 7:30, but the tips are going to be earlier this year, or for the Western Conference Finals for this series. I think somewhere around 7:36 is our scheduled tip-off time tonight, and that includes the MVP award ceremony that's going to run about a minute long. So we might be starting games at like 7:35, which will be nice because usually on these nationally televised games, we're talking about 45 after is around the time that these games start. So an extra 10 minutes early, that'll help my sleep schedule and probably help any writers on a deadline and all the fun stuff that comes with just getting the game started. So have your popcorn popped early this evening.
Yeah, I appreciate the earlier start times because that means we can get some rest before we do our reaction shows the next day at 6 a.m. on weekdays. But I want to go back to what you said about the MVP award and factoring in the first couple rounds of the playoffs. In that, in the past, there have been MVPs that have won the award and not made the postseason. Their team did not make the postseason. So I don't know if you can actually factor in postseason performance into the regular season MVP award. Charles Barkley was actually one of those in 1993. He won the MVP, and Phoenix Suns did not make the playoffs that year.
You know, I see that in soccer where good players on bad teams will get MVP votes. Jorge Hernandez with SAFC on the worst year in SAFC's recent history. Jorge Hernandez was still considered top 3 player in the USL Championship.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I get it. I disagree with the notion because I think part of being the most valuable player is being on at least a team that has home court advantage, which is why I didn't really like Russell Westbrook's MVP case the year that he won when he averaged the triple-double.
Yeah.
His headline was, I averaged a triple-double, yet I'm pretty sure that Oklahoma City was the 8th seed that year.
Yeah. Hakeem also won the MVP award the year before Charles Barkley, and the Rockets did not make the playoffs that year.
And we have social media to shame the voters now. In fact,
that's true.
I like that.
Maybe they should make a playoffs MVP. I know they have the finals MVP, but is there a playoffs MVP? You know?
That might be a way around it. And I don't know. It seems I get that what I'm asking for is a lot, and it probably doesn't change anything if we do postpone the voting through the second round for the MVP because we have email. We can send these votes in and they can be counted overnight.
They need to not wait so long to give the award out. If it's just for the regular season, why not give the awards at the end of the regular season?
I am okay with the timing of the award for everything that I've sort of mentioned, but I also understand what you're saying. They even actually tried to do a award show style.
We don't need that.
In June after the game, like before the draft. It lasted a couple years. It wasn't necessarily a hit. It was kind of fun. The players actually did their own player award ceremonies. I'm a little bummed that also doesn't continue, but you got some saltiness out of that. And I don't think that was necessarily a representative of the voting in a good faith manner. Because I want to say among the I need to look this up now, and I'll try and find it a little later. But the NBA players voted on MVP, if I'm not mistaken, put Wemby 5th, and that's just jealousy. There's no way you can say that there are 4 better players in the world than Victor Wembanyama, and that's just I feel like a kind of a crazy thing. And the fact that Jokic gets it because, he averaged the triple-double, okay, but Wemby's the only MVP candidate that was also Defensive Player of the Year candidate. He wins that unanimously, but when it comes to on the offensive side of the basketball, Jokic has better numbers. I still think Wemby could be more dominant when he applies himself, and hopefully he applies himself tonight when they take off against the Oklahoma City Thunder. 7:30 tip-off tonight. You can catch that game on WOAI. I'll be on the call with Dan Weiss. I'll be in the studio host. Oh, actually, I'll be at the Rock Alcantara tonight. Got to get ready for that traffic. Hope you guys join us. The Frost Bank Center will also be open for a watch party tonight. So stay dry. This week it's going to be a lot of rain. I think today's the only dry day of the week in the forecast. So maybe take advantage of coming out to the Rock tonight. And then Wednesday, I'll either be at the iHeart Studios or maybe I sneak on down to the Frostbank Center. I'll figure out where I'm watching all the games. Cannot wait until the Spurs host on Friday for Game 3. Question will be, can the Spurs steal a game in Oklahoma City? I think they spoil SGA's MVP award night tonight. It's going to be a fun series. I'm excited about this one. Thunder and Spurs. We talk Knicks and Cavaliers on the other side of this one, as that is the Eastern Conference side of the Final Four in the NBA playoffs. I think we already talked about this, LG. We're going to get a copyright strike if we play the Cleveland Tourist song, but that was funny that you sent that to me, and I got a good laugh out of that impromptu Cleveland Tourist song. We'll have to put that out on the socials to tell people we're talking about. Stick with us here on the starting lineup. We talk NBA, and we also talk miscellaneous sports here on Ticket 760. Kids grow faster than paychecks and somehow need a whole new wardrobe every 6 months. Tidy Little Financial Consultants with juice boxes. At Kid to Kid Huebner Road, you can buy and sell gently used kids' clothes, toys, baby gear, shoes, cleats, and even score pro and college fan gear for your future MVP. Kid to Kid buys size preemie through 20 youth and pay cash or 20% or more in store credit. Save money, clear the clutter, and shop sustainably. Located at Huebner and Northwest Military. Follow at Kid to Kid Huebner Road on Instagram. Kid to Kid Huebner Road. Buy, sell, save.
For over 25 years, BetOnline has been one of the most trusted names in online casino gaming. From the hottest slots and massive jackpots to all your favorite live table games, blackjack, poker, and more. Whatever your game, BetOnline Casino puts it all right at your fingertips. After your first deposit, unlock exclusive VIP rewards, level up bonuses, and cash boosts. Enjoy the freedom of online gaming where the action moves with you and every moment is yours. BetOnline. Bet on.
On Plus Nicotine Pouches present Comfort Chronicles. A 10 o'clock tea time. How comfortable. You show up in stretchy shorts, a breathable tee, and maybe no socks. Let the dogs breathe. While others sweat in pleated khakis, you're in your comfort zone bombing drives. And in your pocket, On Plus Nicotine Pouches. The softest pouch on the planet. Buy a can at onnicotine.com. Products for tobacco consumers 21 years of age or older. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
Spring is here, but if you're still feeling exhausted with no energy and no sex drive, it's time to head to Synergenics. 1 in 4 men has low T, and 80% of women experience hormonal imbalance. At Synergenics, the testosterone test is free for men, and women get a $200 discount on their entire hormone test. If it's low, Synergenics will customize a plan for you, and they validate it with periodic labs. Put the spring back in your step. Head to feelgreatlookgreat.com to book your appointment today. That's feelgreatlookgreat.com.
You know what your customers are doing right this second? The exact same thing you are, listening to me. Which, let's be honest, is kind of flattering. But my point is, ads on iHeartRadio actually get heard. In the car, at the gym, on the couch, while people are walking their dogs. Who's a good boy? Who's a good boy? You're a good boy, that's right, you're a good boy. So why not make the next ad about you? Get started today. Call 844-844-iHeart or go to iHeartAdvertising.com. That's 844-844-iHeart or iHeartAdvertising.com.
Car wreck? What happens next? Thomas J. Henry knows you deserve to get compensated for your injuries. Don't settle for less than you deserve. Visit thomasjhenrylaw.com. The name you know, the firm you trust. Principal Office, San Antonio.
It's time to warm up that scoreboard and get ready to bring home the win with Specs. Specs has you covered with lower prices on all your favorite fan fuel. From craft beer, rare spirits, and world-class wine to chips, dips, and gourmet finer foods. And with same-day delivery when you order online or through the app, Specs is your MVP for the biggest score of the game. At Specs, the fun starts here.
Here's to you, cheers to savings.
Is your financial advisor managing your risk or just a spreadsheet? Hi, I'm Jeff Jr., founder of Trajan Wealth. Many financial advisors rely on target date funds, which are one-size-fits-all portfolios that don't know your name, your family, or your goals. And that passive management can leave you dangerously exposed. At Trajan, we look at the whole picture, not just the stocks everyone else buys, but the private market opportunities most advisors ignore. And as fiduciaries, we build a strategy around you, coordinating your investments, tax strategy, and estate into one cohesive plan. Your financial life deserves more than just a generic portfolio. Real planning isn't a stack of statements. It's the confidence of knowing where your income will come from for the next 30 years. Good enough isn't good enough for your family. It's time for a change. Schedule your complimentary consultation today. Call 855-TRAJAN-1. That's 855-TRAJAN-1.
Advisory services through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. Private equity investments require accreditation. Other services through Trajan Estate and Trajan Tax. Additional disclosures at TrajanWealth.com.
It's the French Open, where every point is a battle on clay. I'd know. I competed there for decades. Join me, Renee Stubbs, on the Renee Stubbs Tennis Podcast for no-nonsense breakdowns of the biggest matches, the toughest players, and the moments that define Roland Garros.
Listen, Elena Rybakina is arguably the best player in the world right now, and I actually can win on any surface.
Search the Renee Stubbs Tennis Podcast on iHeartRadio, America's #1 podcast network, and the Webby Podcast Company of the Year.
Presented by Capital One, founding partner of iHeart Women's Sports.
Your ticket for the best Spurs talk. Back to the starting lineup.
This is the starting lineup on Ticket 760. I'm your host, Carl Schoening. LG in the starting lineup with me. You can reach out to me on Instagram or X. I am at On Air Carl. That is Carl with a K. LG is at DJLG210. How else can they get involved with the show, LG?
You can jump into the YouTube chat live because we broadcast this thing live every weekday at 6 a.m. Sometimes we record the show at night, so check out that. You can follow our YouTube channel at Starting Lineup Live. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you can get notified when we do go live. But we've got some comments coming in on the YouTube chat right now. Jason Lasay's in here. He says, Spurs Day, baby. Thunder have played all cupcakes so far in the playoffs. Tonight's going to be a rude awakening. Well, we can all hope so as Spurs fans, that's for sure. X-Ush Clouds, I guess Kush Clouds is in here. He says, sorry I tuned in late, guys. Are you okay with SGA and the MVP? Besides the fact that the league is becoming soft, he's a legit baller at the end of the day. But why not a guy averaging a triple-double? Well, I don't know. Why not? Yeah.
You know, it's one of those things where triple-double just sounds a little headliney to me. It's not that it isn't impressive. It is just if Nikola Jokic averaging a triple-double is more valuable than what Victor Wembanyama brings to the table, which is more than a triple-double. If I were to personally have to pick a value there, it's a hard choice if you were to say, Game 7 right now, would you rather have Nikola Jokic or Victor Wembanyama? But I would still pick Wemby. It wouldn't be that hard of a choice for me. I get the feeling for these MVP voters, they wanted to award the legendary run that Jokic is going on, but Wemby, it's weird. It feels like he has voter fatigue and he's hardly won anything at this point. So people are just sort of like, they want to vote for Wemby because they think he deserves it, but they also know that Wemby's probably going to go on a 10-year run if everything goes right to where he wins MVP 7 or 8 times and he only doesn't win MVP because maybe he doesn't meet the 65-game threshold or there's voter fatigue because he has won it so many times. So we'll have to see what happens there, but no issue with SGA winning MVP. I think sometimes the best argument for an MVP is you are the best player on the best team. Oklahoma City was the best team. This is the first time this century, I think it was like 98 was the last time that two teams that won at least 62 games are meeting in the NBA playoffs. So the first time in the 2000s that this is happening.
It was the Jazz and the Bulls in 1998.
I would have to...
In the NBA Finals.
And this is not a de facto finals, but I do think that whoever comes out of the West has the best chance to win the NBA championship.
Yeah, I agree with that. And Kush Clouds also goes on to say that Wemby needs to put on weight. Spurs in 7, they'll take game 1.
You know, Wemby, it's weird.
He has put on weight.
He has put on weight for sure. And he was never a frail guy. You look at Chet Holmgren, he's the guy that is maybe a $190 soaking wet. And he was maybe 170 when he entered the league. And, you know, weight, I don't think matters as much as it possibly did back in the day when players were posting up all the time. Wemby's going to get stronger just naturally, but he's a big guy. Like, he's very physically imposing. I've been, fortunate to be close in his proximity, and if he wanted to maybe get to 250, 260, he could. It would bulk up his frame a little bit, but it might take away some of what makes him unique. And he's been on record saying that he doesn't want to bulk up too much because it could take away some of his mobility. And his ability to do anything on the basketball court feels like it's a bit more important than maybe being pushed off his line a little bit. He's a very physical player in his own sense because that's been his thing. He's been the frail teenager where men basically say the only thing they can do against him, because he played in a men's league since he was a teenager, is be physical. So he's gotten tons of physicality thrown at him throughout the years, and really sometimes that's the only thing you can do against Victor Wembanyama is just try and push him off of his line, and Wemby still comes up with ways to get around that, and part of that I think is his mobility. So putting on weight, maybe a little bit more bulk, but Wemby's already a pretty physically imposing size. It just sort of gets stretched out over his 7'5" frame, and
you can see it though. If you look at his rookie season and you look at him today, you can see that he's put on a lot of weight actually, and he's got a lot more definition. His arms are a lot more defined, a lot more muscular. And yeah, like you said, he's been a professional since he was 15 years old when he signed with the Euro Cup League over there in France and was playing against grown men, getting pushed around as a 15-year-old, and he was imposing his will on them as well.
And that's, it's a fair criticism that I think I want to say not many people understand that the path that Victor could go on could be a similar path in terms of developing his body to Wilt Chamberlain, should he choose that. Where if you look at Wilt Chamberlain, when he was playing for the Philadelphia Warriors, he kind of had a very similar body size to Wemby right now, where he was frail coming out of Kansas and the Harlem Globetrotters, and then he proceeds to tack on a little bit more weight. And then in 1967, when Wilt was in his probably prime, about 28 years old, he was somewhere around 300 pounds. And then he got up to around 310 and really bulked up in his Laker days. So do I think that Wemby needs to put on that kind of weight? Probably not. But that was also a very different time where Wilt was really getting treated a lot of physicality. Wilt and Wemby are two players that the officials just let the opposing teams foul a ton of because there's nothing else you can really do. It's sort of, we feel sorry for you, so yeah, you can go ahead and foul these basketball gods, if you will. And yeah, anyway, I want to touch a little bit on I appreciate all the comments. Thank you guys for bringing that in. I do think that Wemby will add a little bit more weight. I don't think he'll add too much more weight. He's already pretty impressive as a physical specimen. But I do want to talk about the other side of the bracket, the Eastern Conference, and we'll probably get into it a little bit more before the show ends. Cleveland versus New York is very interesting. We already talked about the funny differences between the two cities. If I were to have a chance to go to the NBA Finals, would I go to Cleveland? Probably not. Would I go to New York? I would definitely look into those paths and see, how much it would set me back, because I'm not going to get paid to go up there, so I would have to pay my own way. And I would love to go to New York and see a game in Madison Square Garden, but the Cavaliers are standing in the way of that. Cleveland is really hard to match up with. Evan Mobley really came to life and outplayed Jalen Duren in the series against the Pistons. Jarrett Allen brings a lot of length and athleticism. I get the feeling that when you look at the Knicks front court for the Cavaliers front court, you got to give the Cavs the advantage there. Karl Anthony Towns really is on a redemption tour, but I don't think that he can outplay Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen. And then on the perimeter, the best perimeter player is probably Jalen Brunson. Yet I don't think, going back to like that SGA and De'Aaron Fox gap, I don't think that there's much of a gap between Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell. So now you're probably talking about the rest of the wings. I really like what Josh Hart brings to the table. He's a high energy, high motor player. He's undervalued in terms of the general NBA sphere. But what he brings to the table is very unique. OG Anunoby being healthy is going to be a very important factor. He has been out with a hamstring since the 76ers series. Luckily for the Knicks, they swept that series to give OG a good long break. He was a full participant in Knicks practice, so hopefully he is able to go. And that series gets started tomorrow night. Very fortunately for us who have been staying up way later than we probably should, the NBA does not have the conference finals on the same days. As far as I know, it'll be Western, then Eastern, and no 2 games in one day in the entire conference finals as they just alternate days. But when it comes to the Cavaliers, I think that this is finally the year they get to the NBA finals. That being said, there seems to be something about New York, a little bit of magic that I think that the Knicks have. They're a very good unit. Mikal Bridges is somebody who I think is an X factor in this series. If he can really put things together, he'll be the one guy that James Harden has to guard, perhaps. I would imagine that Harden almost gets eliminated out of this series because they have enough perimeter defenders. If Harden has a James Harden stereotypical playoff series, Cavaliers are not going to be able to come away with the win against the Knicks. But if the front court of the Cavaliers can make up for maybe James Harden's stereotypical playoff series and Harden just sort of accelerates as a floor spacer and hits some big shots and becomes a little bit of a secondary playmaker sometimes, maybe Cleveland come away with it. I need to do a little bit more research, and I want to see how they match up in a game 1 before I really make a decision on that series. I think it is a toss-up. I'm not necessarily going to say 7 games, but I don't know who wins that series, and I don't think that I have enough information to make a pick until after game 1. I really want to see how that series works out. Knicks will be hosting tomorrow night in Madison Square Garden. That will be a lot of fun. Knicks fans are ridiculous. Post-game and pre-game, they are very TikTok and Instagram worthy. Social media fun that will be happening in New York City as the Knicks, when they are good, the city is alive, much like how San Antonio is alive when the Spurs are good. I kind of project honking tonight. There's going to be thunderstorms and honking tonight in San Antonio. We'll talk a little bit more about the Spurs and the Thunder on the other side of this break here on Ticket 760.
Spurs Insider, brought to you by SWBC.
The Spurs return to the Western Conference Finals for the first time since 2017 as they begin the best-of-7 series this evening against the Oklahoma City Thunder at the Paycom Center. Spurs closed out the Minnesota Timberwolves 139-109 Friday at the Target Center and win the series 4-2. Spurs took 4 of the 5 meetings during the regular season against the Thunder, including splitting a pair in OKC. Coverage tonight begins at 7 on Spurs Radio 1200 WOAI.
At SWBC, we believe financial success hinges on teamwork. We've built a legacy on it, partnering with businesses across Texas to help Texans achieve their financial goals. With a comprehensive suite of personal and commercial services, we're here to support whatever journey you're on. From expert property tax services and HR solutions to protecting your future with insurance, investment strategies, and succession planning, we've got you covered. Because great things happen when we move forward together. SWBC, a proud sponsor of the San Antonio Spurs.
Right now, you're one of thousands tuned into this station. Locked in, fired up, and ready to talk Spurs, Cowboys, and everything in between. That's the unbeatable power of live radio. It reaches you instantly, and you can't scroll past it. Plus, we're streaming and growing on social media. The starting lineup is looking for sponsors who want direct access to this passionate audience. And when you join us, you get professional social media production included. Content created for your business. Shoot us an email right now at thestartinglineup@gmail.com. Team up with the starting lineup on Ticket 760.
Almost 90 years ago, Academy Sports and Outdoors was born right here in Texas. So we know a thing or two about a thing or two. Like beans don't belong in chili. It's called a feeder road. And how far really means how long. We've been your neighbor for generations. That's why we're adding Texas-sized deals across the store, only in Texas. If you happen to find a better price at a competitor, we'll beat it by 5%. Academy. Fun can't lose.
President Trump doesn't trust backstabbing rhino Chip Roy because Chip Roy betrayed MAGA. Roy backed Liz Cheney and pushed to impeach President Trump.
President of the United States deserves universal condemnation for impeachable conduct.
Then Chip Roy helped illegal aliens avoid deportation. And Roy even supported perverts and predators by siding with Gavin Newsom and the trans lobby to push transgender surgeries for children. When we fought back, Roy told MAGA voters,
"You can kiss my ass."
MAGA Mays Middleton stood with President Trump against perverts and predators, stopped radical transgender surgeries for kids, banned men from girls' sports, kicked trans perverts out of women's restrooms, and MAGA Mays banned radical Muslim groups from buying property in Texas and is stopping Sharia law in Islamic enclaves. That's why President Trump called Mays a MAGA champion with a conservative record that is second to none. MAGA Mays Middleton for Texas Attorney General.
Political ad paid for by the Mays Middleton campaign.
Sound familiar? At Mattress Firm, we understand there are many problems that can keep you up at night, like snoring, aches and pains, or sleeping hot. Our sleep experts have the unrivaled know-how to match you with a mattress that can help. And now at Mattress Firm, save up to $700, plus get a free adjustable base with select Sealy Posturepedic mattresses. For the great sleep you deserve, visit Mattress Firm. We make sleep easy. Restrictions apply. See store or website for details.
Pool days call for cookouts and lots of laundry. This Memorial Day at Lowe's, save $80 on a Charbroil Performance Series 4-burner gas grill, now just $199. Plus, get up to 45% off select major appliances to keep dishes, clothes, and food fresh. Having fun in the sun is easy with us in your corner. Our best lineup is here at Lowe's. Valid through 5/27. While supplies last. Selection varies by location. See associate or Lowe's.com for details.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Real Success. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Term supply available at ourrealsuccess.com.
Do you want to learn how to make money flipping houses and acquiring rental properties right here in San Antonio without using your own money? You'll learn to flip houses and secure rental properties in your spare time to get on track towards real wealth building. We're offering a handful of motivated individuals the opportunity to attend our workshop right here in San Antonio for free. That's right, we'll give you 2 free tickets when you text FLIP to 64,000. San Antonio is the perfect market to flip houses and build rental income. Don't miss this opportunity. Come to a complimentary live 2-hour workshop next week right here in San Antonio and learn how to start making money flipping homes and building long-term wealth with rental properties. To get 2 free tickets, text FLIP to 64,000. Text in the next 10 minutes and registrants will also receive a free copy of our Funding for Deals guide. Text FLIP to 64,000 for 2 complimentary tickets. Text FLIP to 64,000.
Your home for Spurs talk. This is the starting lineup with Carl Schoening.
Starting lineup on Ticket 760. It is Spurs Day. It is a big day. I'm your host, Carl Schoening. LG in the starting lineup with me. The Spurs are going to Oklahoma City tonight after having, I guess, maybe 15 hours in San Antonio after defeating the Minnesota Timberwolves in Game 6 of that series. And they jump right into Oklahoma City. It's one of those things where I think the Spurs have a chance to steal Game 1 on the road. And it's just one of those things where I think the Spurs have a big chance to come away with a victory. And it comes down to, I think, the X factor for the Thunder, Jalen Williams. Williams was more or less inefficient in his matchups against the Spurs. He had 17 points in the first game in San Antonio. He had 17 points in both the first game in San Antonio and the first game in the series in Las Vegas. And he shoots 31% in Vegas and 44% in San Antonio. And then the Spurs hold him to 38% on Christmas Day. And he ends up having his biggest game in the one win for the Thunder. And that was 20 points on 60% shooting. So the Spurs, if they can keep Jalen Williams in check, I think they come away with a big, opportunity to come away with at least one of the 2 games in Oklahoma City and steal home court advantage from the Thunder. But Jalen Williams hasn't played since April 22nd. He could have come back, he says on his YouTube page, against the Lakers when they were up 3-0, but instead of risking him playing in a game that they could have closed out on their own, they just give him a little bit more rest. And this will be an interesting idea to see what happens with the Spurs in that particular case. If Jalen Williams is the All-NBA, All-Defensive player, Jalen Williams, and he is the main factor for the Thunder, I think, because SGA is going to get his. If the Spurs have a big gap between Wemby and Chet, that's just going to be something you expect all series. But do they get the big nights from Jalen Williams, J-Dub, if you will, not Jay Will from Arkansas, this is the Santa Clara Jalen Williams we're talking about, then I think the Spurs probably, if they can keep him in check, could even come away with this series in 5 games. That's been just my mantra all series long, is that the Spurs, if they can win those that matchup with Jalen Williams, then they have every other matchup advantage. In fact, the Spurs did that pretty much in the regular season. That was the big thing. The one good game that J-Dub had was the one win that the Thunder had in that series. These two teams are very different, and it's been so long since the last time they played legitimate games. I kind of want to say that you take those 5 games with a grain of salt, but it's, I guess, big opportunity for the Spurs to come away with a Game 1 victory tonight in Oklahoma City. LG, do you have any keys for the Spurs?
My keys are just keeping the Thunder off the line. I said this in the first hour there. The Thunder are the best free throw shooting team in the NBA postseason, shooting just over 85%. And that's just a ridiculously high number. Of course, we know that the whistle tends to favor the Oklahoma City Thunder, and they do have home court advantage in this series because they got the number 1 seed. But Spurs need to steal one and regain home court advantage. Steal game 1, and then the Spurs then have the advantage. On average, the Spurs have one of the best home records in postseason history since moving to the Frost Bank Center. I believe the average is, I have it right here somewhere. Let me pull this up. Most postseason wins at home since the Spurs went to the Frost Bank Center. They are second in the league, only to the Boston Celtics there at the Garden. So the Spurs can get home court advantage. History is in their favor.
Absolutely. And I kind of said multiple times that I think the Spurs can win this in 5. Maybe if that Game 5 is back in Oklahoma City where the Spurs have a chance to close out, the Thunder in desperation mode force a Game 6. But I think Spurs in 6 is a very reasonable bet here. It could go 7. I'm sure the NBA would love it if it goes 7.
That's true.
I just think the Spurs, they just
6.
match up too well. They have the advantage in almost every position except for SGA, and I don't think that the gap there at SGA is all that big from the Spurs' 3-headed point guard monster of Dylan Harper, De'Aaron Fox, and Steph Castle. So it'll come down to shooting. I think that that's been the big thing for these Spurs. Anytime they have a decent shooting night from 3-point range, it is a win for San Antonio. So, that'll be the big thing. If they can get to find a rhythm in their perimeter jump shots, then the Spurs will come away with that kind of win. I can't wait for that game tonight, LG. It'll be a fun one. We'll get predictions throughout the series, obviously, but I do think that the Spurs come away with that win, and I just can't wait to finally see this series. It seems predestined the way that the regular season worked out, and it's been so long since they actually played. January 13th, we're looking at 4 months, but that was the last time the Spurs lost back-to-back games. That's the other reason I think the Spurs win this series is they've anytime they've lost, they've bounced back in pretty much all of 2026. So I just don't see the Thunder getting multiple wins in a row on the Spurs, and that could be a big factor in this series. So if San Antonio comes away with this Game 1 win, I think they come away with the series in probably 6 games. So Steal home court advantage tonight. That is the key for the Spurs. Knock down your three-point shots and win your matchups. Victor Wembanyama certainly excited to have his chance to win his matchup against Chet Holmgren and perhaps prove that he should have been voted the MVP. On the other side of the break, funny thing about that MVP, should have been announced on a certain place, ended up getting announced on another place, and people are saying some interesting things towards the person who broke the news. Talk about that on the other side here as we wrap up the starting lineup on Ticket 760. Spurs fans, it's playoff time in San Antonio. Get in the spirit with Swish, a new Spurs-themed song produced by War Chief featuring Troy Matthews, Big Roddy, and Ice Villa. The perfect soundtrack for this playoff run.
Watch for Wemby in the middle as he's leading all the blocks, giving go for sell the Barnes as they beat the shot clock.
Streaming now on all platforms. Swish by the War Chief. And as always, go Spurs go.
At Uline, the prevailing opinion is, if you don't live it, you don't believe it. The people at Uline believe in hard work, and they live it by being there 24/7 to answer your call, having 41,000 items in stock, and offering same-day shipping from 12 locations across North America. Business owners, sellers, buyers, shippers, and packers believe it. Uline is the hard-working, dependable source for your shipping and industrial supplies. Visit uline.com.
Does your car or truck start smoothly? Do you have any hesitation problems when you hit the gas? A BG Platinum 44K fuel system cleaner will take care of that. It'll clean the entire fuel system. It'll restore your engine's performance and reduce exhaust emissions. You'll have no power loss when you go up that hill. A BG Platinum 44K fuel system cleaner is rated #1 among automotive professionals. Be good to your car. Add BG Platinum 44K to your tank after every oil change. To find a BG professional, visit bgfindashop.com today.
What does it mean to work with one of the largest personal injury law firms in Texas? At Thomas J. Henry, it means we can put our team of experts to work for you. Visit thomasjhenrylaw.com. The name you know, the firm you trust. Principal office, San Antonio.
Proud to make Pops proud. Proud to be Proud Pops.
I'm Brandon Rackler, co-founder of Proud Pops Plumbing, Air, and Electric.
And I'm Jacob Magby, the other co-founder and also co-brother.
With air conditioning season here already, homeowners are wondering if that old AC that barely made it through last summer is ready to handle this summer.
But no one wants to buy a new AC if the old one can be fixed up. Good as new.
As Pops used to say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
To be fair, quite a lot of people say that.
Yeah, but when Pops said it, he meant don't pressure people into an expensive replacement when the AC they have still has a few good years left, in the hands of the right serviceman.
Call Proud Pops and we'll assess the situation and give you a Pops proof report with a plethora of pictures that clearly show what needs to be done.
As Pops used to say, a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Literally everyone says a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Proud to make Pops proud. Proud to be Proud Pops.
Give us a call and we'll pop in.
Visit proudpops.com.
Pantalones Organic Tequila. Because tequila is fun. Pantalones.
In this edition of the Marketer's Report, Giovanni Martinez, Senior Director of Marketing and Innovation for Avocados from Mexico, speaks on audio's reach.
We know how powerful is audio. I mean, with the frequency, the reach that you can generate with that component is something that we always have as an add-on in our campaigns.
As the #1 audio company, iHeartMedia connects marketers to the audiences, live conversations, and trusted influencers you need to grow. If you're a marketer, go to iHeartAdvertising.com.
Progressive presents Perfectly Bad Excuses for Missing Stuff to Spend More Time on Your Motorcycle.
Hey, Tom. Gonna miss the 5K. Gotta organize my vitamins. A, B, C. There's so many. D.
Now that was a bad excuse. If you love your vehicle this much, get customized coverage from Progressive, America's #1 motorcycle insurer. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in D.C.
On Plus Nicotine Pouches present Comfort Chronicles. A 10 o'clock tea time. How comfortable. You show up in stretchy shorts, a breathable tee, and maybe no socks.
Let the dogs breathe.
While others sweat in pleated khakis, you're in your comfort zone bombing drives. And in your pocket, On Plus Nicotine Pouches. The softest pouch on the planet. Buy a can at onnicotine.com. Products for tobacco consumers 21 years of age or older. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
Kids grow faster than paychecks and somehow need a whole new wardrobe every 6 months. Tiny little financial consultants with juice boxes. At Kid to Kid Hebner Road, you can buy and sell gently used kids' clothes, toys, baby gear, shoes, cleats, and even score pro and college fan gear for your future MVP. Kid to Kid buys size preemie through 20 youth and pay cash or 20% or more in-store credit. Save money, clear the clutter, and shop sustainably. Located at Hebner and Northwest Military. Follow at Kid to Kid Hebner Road on Instagram. Kid to Kid Hebner Road. Buy, sell, save.
Start your day with the starting lineup.
Starting lineup on Ticket 760, wrapping up here as we have a Monday edition almost in the books. Stan Patrick's will be coming up next on Ticket 760. Appreciate all y'all joining us. I'm your host, Carl Schoening. LG in the starting lineup with me today.
Yes, sir. We got a couple chats in here.
Oh, yeah. What do we got?
Kush Clouds is in here. He says, OG is going to be the game changer this series. Okay.
Oh, yeah. OG
All right.
Anunoby is going to be huge for that series against Cleveland.
Yep. And Greg's in here. He says, good morning to Spurs fans and Spurs fans only. Okay. Very selective there.
That's
Very
fine.
exclusive.
Yeah. Good morning, Spurs fans. Appreciate that, Greg. That's true. Yeah. I'm not saying good morning to Shams Charania. You know why? I feel like he needs to know when to draw the line on breaking news. Shams, he's so well connected that sometimes he'll leak things that are maybe political or not related to basketball. And it's very interesting to be a merchant of information like that. There's probably worlds where he could really do good in, yet it could be at the risk of him being a political target, so he decides to stay in sports. I will say, Shams, I have his push notifications on so I can get information as it happens. Mm-hmm. He must have some kind of crystal ball, connections wherever he can.
He's got a lot of CIs, if you will.
He's all around the world, and who knows where that all works out. And then the information broker business in the NBA is very selective. There's a lot of things that people know, but they're not necessarily allowed to put out because the sources tell them, hey, we've already promised this to ESPN when it eventually does drop. So even though the news is known in NBA insider circles, they can't really touch it on it. It's very interesting to look into that world. Shams, when I was watching the draft lottery, I saw that he tweeted out who the top 4 were before they were announced. So somebody broke confidence in there, and that just ruins live television. I don't like it when they do that for the draft where Shams says, oh, hey, coming up next at this pick. Because these guys, essentially, they look at the big boards. They know if, say, Carter Bryant is available at 14, the Spurs are taking him at 14 because the Spurs had him at number 7 on their big board or what have you. So these guys are very aware of where they end up in the, I guess, information sphere of what they can put out and what they can't. Shams puts out that SGA wins back-to-back MVPs yesterday, and it's supposed to be information that is broken on Prime. And Taylor Rooks, the host of the Prime Studio show, very hilariously addressed the elephant in the room. We were supposed to announce this here on our show, but Shams doesn't. And then Blake Griffin says, come on, Shams, spend your Saturday doing something else more productive and maybe have brunch or something, you nerd. So shots fired from Blake Griffin and the Prime crew over at Shams. And I agree. I think there are certain things that need to be respected, such as live television, the draft, those kinds of things. I turn off my push notifications of those insiders because I enjoy watching the draft live. We're going to be doing some stuff about that on Ticket 760.
I don't think people like him should exist, honestly. Not him himself, but insiders shouldn't exist. You should allow the sources that are affiliated with the actual organization to get their news out the way they want to get it out. Not leaks and just, I guess it's investigative reporting, but it seems like he's jumping the gun on announcements like the MVP award and, draft picks. And I'm sure a lot of the teams are not happy with him.
No, and that's an interesting thing because as someone who works for this, technically I work for iHeart, but I would say via extension, the Spurs are an employer of mine. I wait for the Spurs. Even if Shams tweets it out, I wait for the Spurs to confirm any Spurs-related news. So if Shams were to say something like, Victor Wembanyama is available after an injury, right, then I would wait for the Spurs to put it out. I can't take that information and run with it.
He's getting this info from somebody, so somebody is leaking this information to him because he's obviously not in every single locker room. Somebody is telling him what he's reporting, and as an employee of the Spurs, if I were to leak information to anybody, I would be fired.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm not going to speculate where he gets a lot of his information from because he has so many sources, but the agents are very much brokers of information around the information world. And it makes me wonder sometimes, journalistic integrity when it comes to sources is the key word being sources, multiple, plural. There are plenty of things that you can probably say you hear from one person, and now it's on you to find an unrelated source to confirm it. So I'll kind of say an example of the biggest thing that I could have probably broken in my career, because I heard through the grapevine from a very legitimate source that LeBron James was going to go to the Lakers, and this was the first round of the playoffs preceding that. Just heard from a source that LeBron was dead set on going to the Lakers after his second stint in Cleveland. And I took that very seriously because that's obviously a big question this offseason is what's going to happen with LeBron and his free agency. Anytime LeBron enters free agency, you have to wonder, and this was a very legitimate source. However, I don't have the resources to go out and find someone like maybe a Rich Paul to confirm it. Rich Paul would not answer my phone call if I said, hey, I heard this, can you confirm? And no one's going to give me that time of day. However, if I did have that kind of information sort of leak out just because of the one source, that one source might never have talked to me again. Maybe he would have, I don't know. But then on top of that, there are plenty of other people that might not talk to me. So there's a lot going on in that world of sources. But Shams, understand when to be fun and when you're being annoying. He was certainly annoying at the draft lottery, telling the top 4 order before the TV show aired it. And he was being annoying yesterday, taking away Amazon Prime's MVP announcement. But I guess good for him. I'm not going to knock his success. He does his thing, and he does it well, and I still have his push notifications on either way. That'll do it for the Starting Lineup Monday edition, 7:30 start tonight. Can't wait for the Spurs and the Thunder, Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. We'll talk about all of the Game 1 action tomorrow, 6 a.m. sharp, here on the Starting Lineup. Have a good Monday, everybody.
Go Spurs, go!
This is San Antonio FC Insider, brought to you by Community First Health Plans.
Providing the benefits and support to get stronger and follow every dream. Community First Health Plans. Strength and wellness.
San Antonio FC beat 1 Knoxville SC in the Brinks Tires USL Cup on the road this weekend. SAFC center back Thiago Suarez scored the game-winning goal just before the halftime whistle off a header on a corner kick. Goalkeeper Richard Sanchez made 2 saves to preserve his 4th clean sheet across all competitions. San Antonio rises to the top of Group 3 with its second round win and will travel to face FC Tulsa in the next contest on Saturday, May 6th. That's today's SAFC Insider. I'm Katie Goodman.